Dear friends, welcome back to Data Analytics Talks. In today's Power BI Learning Series, Part 3, we are going to discuss on how to prepare SQL data for your Power BI dashboard. So we will be focusing on how to install SQL Server Express Edition and how to restore AdvantureWorks database to your database. We will just see what is there in the AdvantureWorks DW 2017. Let's begin. In the part 2 series, we have already seen how to connect to various data sources. That means which are the sources that we can connect from Power BI. There are many data sources, right? Almost all data repositories that is available today. So in our tutorials, we will be going for some of them like Excel, CSV, then SQL Server, and also we can say Azure SQL Server. So today I will help you connect to SQL Server. But before connecting to SQL Server, you might need to install a SQL Server. Try to connect to SQL Server. Now you are getting a prompt. It is asking you server and it's also asking you database. So it is obvious that to connect to a SQL Server, we should have that SQL Server installed either in your computer or in a remote place or in a cloud service like Azure SQL. It also tells you like you can use import mode or you can use direct query mode. So we will explain this in detail when we are trying to connect to the DB in the real scenario, and also has options to use SQL statements for connecting to the database. I believe some of you are fresh to Power BI and SQL Server and you may not know how to install SQL Server. Today's my goal is to help you install SQL Server. So SQL Server has licensed version and also an express version you can play with. So if you don't have license, then you want to learn SQL Server, let's go with SQL Server Express Edition. And you know, SQL Server Express Edition is free for you to explore. To learn Power BI, SQL Server Express Edition is more than enough. So let's go and install SQL Server. We can install SQL Server by downloading the SQL Server Express Edition binaries. So let me search for SQL Server Express. Maybe we go with the Express 2017. So there are also latest versions like 2019 and 2022 and all. So I just go for an old version because I am comfortable with that. So it shows you Microsoft SQL Server 2017 Express. And what does it say? Microsoft SQL Server 2017 Express is a powerful and reliable free data management system that delivers a rich and reliable data store for lightweight website and desktop applications. For a Power BI development, Microsoft SQL Server Express Editions is more than enough. So it is very important to choose your language before you download. So I am good with English. Let me download the binary. The binary has been downloaded and let me right click and let's run as administrator. I will go with basic, but you can also choose custom and you can also have the download media. So in download media, SQL Server set of files now and install them later on a machine of your choice. So this is if you want to download these binaries and install in some other machines according to your convenience. But I'm not interested. And this one is download and execute the full SQL Server for Windows setup experience for a customized install with multiple features. So I am not interested these two. If you have if you're an experienced administrator who is able to choose the features, then we can go for custom. But as a beginner, always go for the basic, which will do the quick install for your basic needs. So let me accept the terms and conditions. I have chosen the location as C program files Microsoft SQL Server. If you want to change the path, you can browse and change the path. No issues. Approximately the download size is 283 MB. So the minimum space required is 6616 MB. It's all good. So let us click on install. First of all, this will download the package. Then it will start installing. While installing, it will give you tips and also the updates. So what is happening now is acquiring set of files. So the download part is complete. Now it is installing. As a first step, it is extracting the set of files. I would recommend every Power BI developer has the knowledge, the basic knowledge of SQL Server, how to install it, and how to manage the DDL data definition language and DML data manipulation language and basic SQL queries. What is table, what is views, what is trigger, what is stored procedure. This basic knowledge will help you become a, an excellent Power BI developer too. So don't forget to learn the basics of SQL Server as you learn the basics of Power BI. Without any issues, Express Edition of SQL Server 2017 got installed in this virtual machine. And basically, you know, there is something called SQL Server Management Studio. So in order to efficiently manage SQL Server, let's install SSMS, that is Integrated Environment for Accessing, Configuring, Managing, Administering, and Developing all components of SQL Server. So for that, we need to download SQL Server Management Studio SSMS from the Microsoft size. For that, we need to download SQL Server Management Studio SSMS from the Microsoft portal. And it is saying that this applies to SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Management Instance, and all. So let's install free download for SQL Server Managed Studio 19.1. Now there are different ways to connect. Okay, it's not only the SSMS. We can also connect using script. What I say, click here to open a new window that connects to the instance you have just installed. Let me just click on it. And there are some sample commands. I will copy that and run that. So we can see the version. What is the version of SQL installed here? So the download is complete. Now we need to install SQL Server Management Studio. So let's again run as administrator. As I already mentioned, this tool is As I already mentioned, this tool is to administer the installed SQL Server. Okay. Again, we have an option to choose the path. I can change the path if you need it, but let's leave as it is. Let's click on install. So notice that it says Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio with Azure Data Studio. Again, this needs to install multiple packages. Of course, this will take a couple of minutes, so we need to wait for that. So don't worry, I will skip that waiting. Now the installation of the Azure Data Studio is in progress. I am going slow because it will really help you as you also install it yourself. If you have a virtual machine in Microsoft Azure, then it is always recommended to create a virtual machine and install. So finally, the setup completed. All specified components have been installed successfully. So let's close this window. Also, we can close the SQL Server 2017 Express Edition installation window. So when you look back to your download folders, you will see SQL Server installer as well as SSMS setup. So now what is next? Let's try to connect to our SQL Server. Let's search for SQL Server Management Studio. By default, it takes the Windows authentication, and the instance server name is SQL Express. So let's try to connect. So those who have not seen SQL Server Managed Studio, yeah, welcome to a new world of data. Here starts your RDBMS, maybe Relational Database Management System. So we have databases. So is empty. As yesterday, as in the previous session, we installed Power BI and you did not find anything because we did not have the data. So here in our case, we installed SQL Server Express Edition and SQL Server Management Studio, and we have opened SQL Server Management Studio, but you don't see anything here other than the system provided databases and features. Okay, so whenever you are installing a SQL Server, you can find master database, you will have a model database, you will have MSDB database and TemDB databases. So these are inbuilt with SQL Server, and you can see tables like system tables, some of the system tables to manage the database. And this is not the user created table, this is system table, and this does the purpose of managing the Power BI. So nobody will go and modify this master database, so we don't need to touch master database. In any SQL Server database, you will find tables, views, programmability, which is nothing but stored procedure, functions, triggers, custom types, rules, sequences, and so on. Hope you get an idea about SQL installation and the default databases comes with SQL Server. So if you find any difficulty in installing SQL Server, please send me a note or make comments under the video. Thank you. From an environment setting up point of view, we have installed Power BI Desktop, SQL Server 2017, SQL Server Management Studio Management. We are able to see the default settings of the database. Now we need a database with data if possible. For that, we have an option from Microsoft to download AdvantureWorks sample databases backup. Then we will be able to restore that into our local. So in order to restore the backup that we have downloaded, let's right click on the database, then select on restore. Then we have the options whether it is a database or whether it is from device. Let's select the device. Then we have to add the path. It is in the D. Let's go to the D column. We have the AdvantureWorks DW217 backup. So select the back and let's click OK. This will be added to our database. Let's click on it. So we have the database AdvantureWorks DW2017 restored successfully to our new database. You have all the database components added under this database. So for example, you can expand the table and you will be able to see the dimension tables and the fact tables. And this is a data warehousing, so the modeling follows a dimensional modeling, unlike the OLTP, which is a normalized master data master detail model. So we have some videos created for data modeling. If you don't know the data models like dimensional modeling or fact table or star schema, then please refer to those videos. Then we have some views also. We will look into the details later on, but we have enough data for our Power BI dashboard development. So as I mentioned, we will be focusing on SQL Server Database, especially the AdventureWorks DW 2017. Also, we will be having some Excel inputs. So we will have some data in the form of Excel or CSV file. We will load that into the Power BI for our development. This is it for today or this session. We will have the next series with data load. Thank you for watching this video.